Hello everyone, I'm Cindy Young with Brownfield Ag News, and I'm joined today by Kyle Durham, Chairman of the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council. Kyle, will you wave? By Justin Roan, Chairman of the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council Research Committee, and by Tim Gottman, who is the Chairman of the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council Demand Committee. And I'm going to start with a softball question here. And whoever wants to go first, just jump right in. How would you describe the Missouri soybean checkoff to a neighbor? Nobody's raising their hand, so I'll let you take that.
I would describe it to my neighbor as saying that the Missouri Soybean Checkoff Program works to make soybean farming more profitable in Missouri by doing things together that we can't do by ourselves as farmers. And what I mean by that is we fund research, we invest in growing market shares, and we do the work together that you as an individual cannot do, and hopefully return that value to your farm, either on the cost savings side or on the market development side.
I'd agree with Justin. You know, the checkoff story since its inception is really the story of farmers investing in themselves and in their industry. Supporting projects that really help individual farmers like Justin and Tim and I and you that may be watching this video to really take tangible return on investment ideas, apply those to your farm, and really improve the farms across not only this state, but across the country as well.
Tim, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that it essentially gives us the ability to have, I'll use hired men. We are hands-on workers on the farm, so we produce the product, but we don't have the ability to be out and promote it. So it gives us the ability to essentially hire staff and everybody else to go out and promote our product.
Would you use that same description and explanation to someone that you don't know?
I think so. When you look at industry and just growing of soybeans, what the investment in the soybean checkoff is it's research and development, it's communications and public outreach, it's investment into new uses. These are critical parts of businesses across the nation and across different industries. And this is a truly unique experience where it's not one company that's controlling it. It is truly a coming together of farmers from across the state, in the case of the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council, and across the nation and when it comes to things like USB, to invest in the industry as a whole.
Anyone else have a comment there?
I would agree with that. I think most people, whether they're in the industry, outside the industry, your neighbor or not, can understand that by leveraging your resources together, you can have an outsized impact. And that there are things that industry might not choose to do because there's no immediate return on investment, whereas in the long run, it would be good for farmers to have something done. And that's one place where we can step in and fill that hole too.
I heard someone, I'm not going to point any fingers, but I heard someone mention soybean profitability. So when soybean prices are low, does that mean the checkoff is not working? Who wants to take that?
No, I mean, we're in a global marketplace. There's no one entity, individual, no one market determining factor that you can really point to in today's world to say that that's going to be the determining impact on soybean prices. But as we continue to grow in the global marketplace and continue to feed the global population, the investments that we make here will just provide further opportunities for profitability in the future.
I think to piggyback on what Justin said, Farmers understand the cyclical nature of commodity prices and the business that we're in, and that we're going to see those ebbs and those flows. But I think the goal over time is to compress that volatility and to really enable and empower our farmers to be more resilient when those changes in the market come along.
I think the checkoff helps sustainability, consistency in the market. Even though we are getting some ups and downs now, it would be much worse without it.
Tim, what are your personal expectations from the checkoff? For you, for your farm, personally?
To go out and promote what we work so hard daily, to promote it as something that I don't have the ability to do, because we don't have the time. Not just I, but all of us farmers. We're out there in the production end of it, and that's a whole nother world in itself. And we need to educate and promote, and that's what I would expect out of it.
Kyle, what are your personal expectations?
Well, my expectations and the value that I feel I gain from checkoff investments into research specifically is that we're getting research projects that are specifically geared toward our soils here in Missouri, our specific climate conditions in Missouri, and to really be able to take that tailored approach, to even drill down as far as, there are certainly differences in climate and in soil between just the three of us, within one state, with Justin in the Boot Heel and Tim in Northeast Missouri, and then I'm more in Northwest Missouri. So that ability to really drill down in a precise manner is the value that I see in checkoff research.
Do you have something that you would like to add, Justin?
My expectations of the checkoff program is that the staff and our partners work as hard to increase our profitability as we do to raise the crop. And over the past year that I've been on the board, I've seen that, and I'm grateful for the work, and I think that it's going in the right direction.
Do you feel that your expectations are in line with expectations of other soybean farmers across the state?
I would hope so. I mean, soybean farmers are hard workers, and they expect that when they give their money to somebody, that they will work hard with it and produce results with it. And I think that that's a common belief, and I believe that they probably share that expectation and are grateful for the work as well.
I think they should absolutely expect relevance of the information that comes from their checkoff organizations and the research that is commissioned on their behalf. And the important thing to remember too is that all 13 members on our checkoff board are full-time farmers that were elected by their peers, and we live and work in the industry, and certainly welcome input from our fellow growers throughout the year on the research projects that we manage on behalf of them.
I think generally most younger farmers I think most of us are getting more age on us what we want to admit, but don't wake up in the morning thinking about the checkoff dollar. I think they go to their job and they do what they normally do, and I think that's where the district meetings and stuff come in. If you can get attendance there, it brings attention to what the checkoff dollar is doing, and that's mostly the only information they ever get is through that, because it's not a thought, for us on the board, we think about it more, but general farmer, I don't think they put a lot of thought into it.
Anybody else want to add anything else to that?
I don't think so. I think that, I look at that as a success of the checkoff. As Tim mentioned, we're now in kind of the second generation where the initial generation was the group of farmers that said, yes, we want to have a checkoff. We see that value. And now we're kind of in that second generation of producers who have always kind of grown up and come into the business with a checkoff already in existence. So there wasn't a sales push for it. It was just kind of always there. And so it's incumbent on us as board members and farmers out in our own districts to remind folks and perhaps in some instances to introduce folks to the reasons that the checkoff was originally brought about and why farmers voluntarily chose to pursue a checkoff.
What are those reasons that it was originally brought about?
I think a lot of the reasons are things that we've kind of already mentioned here. A feeling and a sense and a need for farmers to invest in themselves because nobody else was going to do it. Farmers are grab the bull by the horns kind of guys and gals. I don't want that know that if something is going to get done on our farms, we're going to do it. We're not going to sit around and wait on somebody else. And so that was the key and probably the largest selling point when it came to bringing about the checkoff in its inception is we are going to drive our industry in the direction that we want to go and not just sit here and be passive observers.
Anyone else?
Well, that direction wouldn't be from just one corner of the state. That's why it has its districts, and you get voices from all over the state, which is needed.
So let's go back and talk again about things from a personal perspective. Is there any particular, and I'll start with you, Tim, is there any particular research or information or resources that are funded with checkoff dollars that you see to be extremely important or relevant on your home farm?
Probably at home, the biodiesel would be the first one that would come to mind. Without the promotion of this board, it would just, there wouldn't be the push behind it to keep it to the forefront. Mm-hmm. That would be.
Kyle, what about you?
I completely agree. As we sit here today, we're in Kansas City. There is a biodiesel plant just down the road here, Paseo, Cargill. And as Tim mentioned, biodiesel was born in Missouri, and Missouri is currently the #2 producer of biodiesel in the nation. Now, what that means to me on my farm is about an hour's drive from where we sit right now. That has increased the value of the soybeans by retaining a crusher in Kansas City that may not have been there had the biodiesel plant not been built. The biodiesel plant may not have been built had the research not started with the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council 30 years ago to lay the groundwork for the technology and to prove that this novel concept that we could take soybean oil and put it into a diesel engine, at the time was revolutionary. And still, I couldn't explain to you the fine details and chemistry that makes it happen. But what I do know is that it's providing jobs and economic development, not just in Kansas City, but across rural Missouri.
I'm a questioner on our farm. I like to question why we do things, how we do things, and there's not a time when I pick up my phone and Google something that I don't come across a checkoff funded website eventually. I'll type something in to say, what kind of seed treatment do I want to use this year, or what fungicides do I need to be applying, or what kind of nitrogen stabilizers do I need to be using, not on my soybeans, but on other things. And I come across a checkoff website of some sort and some sort of report done by a checkoff program. So in that sense, it's a great tool for helping me make decisions on my farm. And then the soybean breeding programs in the past have been a great value to our farm. We were in the non-GMO soybean production business for quite some time, and we utilized a lot of the public varieties produced out of the University of Missouri Delta Center with Chekhov-funded research and variety developments. So there's been great tools coming out of the Chekhov program for farmers in Southeast Missouri.
The role that each of you has on the council, the role that everyone on the council has, it's an awesome responsibility to the soybean growers and the money that they put into the soybean checkoff in the state of Missouri. Tim, as chairman of the demand committee, what do you see as your role and your responsibility to the checkoff, to the farmers?
Thank you for picking me first.
You're welcome.
Basically, my role as the chairman of the demand committee is to help direct the committee, and then in the meetings and stuff. But it's a group effort. It's not just I'm not in charge. I pass it on a lot to my fellow peers. But no, the demand committee is important for the areas that they pursue. And I didn't know that question was coming at me, so
That's all right.
I'm not going to do a very good job with it.
That's okay. We might come back to you. We might ask somebody to give you a little bit of help with that.
Yeah, because I'm.
So because that's what we're doing.
Yes.
We're learning. We're you never know when you're going to get a question like that thrown at you. So you want to be as prepared as possible. And you probably have the answer to that in there somewhere.
Oh, I
it's
do.
just finding it. Justin, I'm going to throw the same question at you as chairman of the research committee. Awesome responsibility. What do you see as your role and your responsibility?
Oh, I mean, the number one role that we have as chairman of any of our committees is to make sure that the committee itself is properly informed and has the ability to vocalize and prioritize the many decisions that we have to make going forward. And that's, it's, in that sense, I kind of view any chairmanship of any of the boards I'm on as being more of a clerk in that sense.
Okay.
To try to just organize and prepare everybody to make good decisions. But, going forward, we also have a responsibility to make sure that that reports are done on time, that we get the information that we need from our outside cooperators and partners, and to have conversations specifically about this with our partners and see which direction they're planning on going, and does their research, does their goals of their research mesh with our goals.
Well, Kyle, as the overall chairman, what do you see as your role and your responsibilities, not only to the farmers and the checkoff dollars, but to the other members of this council and the two gentlemen sitting by your side?
Absolutely, Cindy. Great question. When we look at something as comprehensive as the research portfolio that we have the honor of managing, and whether it's applied agronomics, and those sorts of projects, cover crop studies, soil health, crop rotation, those sorts of things, whether it's new uses, demand, and biodiesel and the soylaic program, any of those, what needs to stay at the center of focus, and kind of what I try to strive to do as chairman, is to remind folks both on our board and those that I come across daily that the research portfolio doesn't belong to us. It truly belongs to the farmers of this state. We simply have the honor and the immense responsibility to manage that wisely. And so what does it mean to manage that wisely? And it really means drilling down and finding and identifying those projects that are going to be most impactful to growers down the street from us, across the state, and in some cases, across the country. How do we remain impactful and empower those soybean growers, and how do we measure the return on that investment? We've got to be able to have tangible results that are putting dollars back in farmers' pockets.